A veure, I'm sorry, because... voy a hacer la presentación en catalán y luego te... sorry. I'm going to do this in Catalan, but later I present you.
No, but you don't have to do it in English.
No, not all, but just to tell you hello, welcome.
I know it's something nice you're going to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
See, don't worry, you don't have to say.
Okay, all right.
Do you want?
No, gràcies. Molt bé, bona tarda a tothom. Avui tenim una sessió, diria, excepcional, perquè tenim l'oportunitat de tenir una convidada, que és l'Anupama Kundoo, aquí la tenim, i li donem la benvinguda, i li agraïm moltíssim que hagi fet l'esforç de venir en aquest congrés. Vostès coneixeran potser que la senyora Kundoo és arquitecta, ella és originària de la Índia, però a banda de que allà ha introduït tota una sèrie de recerques i de treballs i de projectes utilitzant materials naturals en el centre d'Auroville, on ella treballa i on ha tingut estudi, ha tingut l'oportunitat també de difondre una mica els seus coneixements per tot arreu del món, és molt reconeguda en les universitats europees i australianes i d'Estats Units. Per tant, jo crec que tenim l'oportunitat de tenir avui una conferència molt interessant amb un dels temes que més a tots plegats ens interessen, que és la qüestió del treball amb els materials naturals, amb els materials de la terra, de quina manera l'arquitectura de qualitat, perquè és una arquitectura d'excel·lent qualitat, s'imbrinca amb tot el que és la tradició constructiva dels diferents llocs, i per tant li agraïm molt a la senyora Kundoo que ens deixi participar d'aquests coneixements i que ens expliqui una mica com treballa ella. Jo, a banda d'això, ella tindrà oportunitat de parlar una estona, després tindrem uns minuts de debat, potser no gaires perquè anem una mica justos de temps, però espero que en tot cas sigui del màxim interès per tots vostès. Per tant, thank you, welcome, Anupama.
Thank you for all the very flattering introduction.
No.
And without, I don't want to make, it's okay, the sound?
Espera, now it's better.
Okay, so yes, thank you for all the praises. I don't want to, I don't know if I deserve all of these praises. I have seen fantastic work this whole morning. I'm really happy to come here, particularly to receive also and to connect with the other people in Spain who are doing this kind of sensitive work. So definitely, I'm not sure if all my projects are that healthy, as the way you described, because every project is located in its very unique context, and I'm responding the best as per my capacity in that kind of context, with a similar interest as yourselves. So I used, because it is the topic is about architecture and health. Maybe, in fact, it would be the most healthy now to have a siesta, but, I think the architects are used to not sleep, even in the night enough, as I complained before. For me, really, I must say that my own practice was not, it is a lot of hard work, all works are hard, but I always slept for 8 hours, during all the busy weeks. In the times in Auroville, in the times when I generated a lot of work, I don't glorify so much a kind of personal suffering, because I think this balance and health, I call the topic balance inside out. So I think to the world of healthy architecture, it also belongs the personal health of the architect. I sometimes, I admire the work, the attitude of the work of Spanish architects, but maybe you can work a little bit less and a bit more time to think why we are working, because I'm very impressed, but, it's not good in the long run to be not sleeping, Anyway, so that I have to say, because I recently moved in Spain to Madrid, and I'm seeing, the huge number of good architects that this country has. So I wanted to mention that personal angle. The other thing I decided to discuss today, because I know that a lot of you have already a lot of experience with the material, the health of healthy material itself, and you have a very good exhibition, and you have, I think among yourselves there's a lot of experience about this aspect of health in terms of the relationship to the material, to the body. But I want to also speak about that's why other issues which also come for me under the bracket of health and collective health issues. So I call it balancing inside out, because for me there is something in the body, there is an inside functioning, healthy functioning of the organs and the body. But there is the outside quality of the environment, the air you breathe. If you draw a section between us, the same air is going inside you, and your lungs and my lungs, it's the same air. So even if I'm healthy, when you breathe out or you smoke, it will affect the other people, So we are a collective, and the planet is one, and the environment is very physically connected with the water, with the air and everything. It's directly, it's not a philosophical idea, it's a direct thing. So the outside health and the inside health are integral, So for me the most important thing is the aspect of integral thinking, to think always of the big picture and to keep trying to know more about the bigger picture that we still don't know about. So it's not only going into the detail of the small, zooming in and knowing each part very well, but we also need to zoom out and see the larger things that happen in the collective life of how we organize our urban community living, or rural also. I want to just share with you that I explained in the morning, 25 years ago I started my practice, and I want to share with you what are the concerns that I felt about the outer things, the larger big picture, that has informed the way I practice. And it did not start because of health or because of, I don't know, ecological things, environment. There are so many labels you can put, It's each of them are a very different actually aspect. What I want to actually mention, how did I start to do this kind of work? I grew up in Bombay. 25 years ago, we already knew about the environmental crisis. There were already people who have done this kind of work much before our times. So it's not something new. Today these words are more popular, but it's not like it was not there before when I graduated. There were some forces in the world which are creating imbalance, I would prefer to say, because I'm talking about balancing. So there are some imbalances that are happening in the very recent times in our very new kind of urban transformations we have. So I just mentioned them, for me what they are. One is the rural to urban transformation. In India, where I grew up and I moved to a smaller place, I realized that I knew there was a very big gap between the bulk of India, which was rural, agricultural, and the few places which were cities and urban life. Today, we are still not equal, but the global average is more urban than rural. This is a huge transformation, and it is a huge imbalance that is happening because of the speed of it. The second point is this picture. This picture, if it looks very scary or very crowded for you, it was already 10 or 15 years ago. So now it's much more people. It's very important for me to explain to you the context. Today, India is 1/6 of the population of the world, China also. Together, India and China alone is 1/3 of the population of the world. And whatever we do or don't do is going to affect everybody. You cannot think that it will not affect you, because that many people are going to be urbanizing quickly. On the other hand, the unique situation for me has always been the fact that we are a large population occupying only 2.4% of the world's land. So in any case, we have less resources than most countries. And I, in a spontaneous manner, I always am impressed as a designer when people are able to do less, with less things they're able to achieve more. It's for me not about poverty, and it's more about design efficiency. I naturally admire solutions that need less to have more. And in the case of India, there is no choice. It's not that you can have a choice to be sustainable or not. There is so much of a cake and that many family members, and you have to cut it accordingly. You know, that is the fact. On the other hand, what is also important is that in the developed countries, you also carry a responsibility, I think, to not use more than your proportion of the energy. You know, I mean, just because you were there first, you cannot, it's like the people feel they arrive in a party and the food is over, you know. Like now they are urbanizing, and in the time when Europe and America were urbanizing, after industrialization, you were using any materials, doing everything, you know, because there was no awareness of the shortage. We don't have that choice. So, but on the other hand, the places which are developed, they also have to think how they are contributing to the global problem by creating a lifestyle which not every Indian, African, South American and Chinese can have. Because if we all had the same consumption pattern, it would be impossible we would need many planets to have the resources. This is one concern. Another one is globalization driven factors. That means big companies going to countries and other places trying to create buildings that they know and to try to have the same demand. They create central heated or cooled buildings, you know, and the ground is not prepared for that. Really, you can see there are animals, there is, you know, it's an illusion. But one of the things which worries me the most when I talk about, these are all the imbalances, one of them is this picture, which for me is really the big symbol of rapid urbanization. There is a middle line of slow urbanization of outskirts of Delhi, Gurgaon. It's growing without rules, not very pleasant, but not dramatically bad, just not in harmony, but everybody doing whatever they want, slow anarchy. Then you have this other promoted development, and in order to build that, global companies coming in, you create the slums. So because people have come to the city, they all have jobs. So urban poverty is a big concern, because urban poverty is not the same as poverty. Urban poverty means you have jobs, you work more than 8 to 10 hours, and you cannot use that money is not enough for a house and medicines and education is not enough. So that is a real no-go situation, because you work the maximum you can and you can only afford to live in slums. So those people don't realize that they are creating the slum as part of this whole development. These are the things that in Bombay, when I lived there, it was not so extreme. Now, each year I go, it's more extreme. And it's not only Bombay, it's in most cities that are now urbanizing today, they are all like that. There is an incredible social segregation which is unacceptable. And so for me, affordability has come up as one of the major concerns of our time, and it is a part of the health, integral health of the society. If you make solutions which are not affordable, or they are only affordable to the elite, it's not green, it's not eco, it's going to not come in the mainstream, because nobody can afford that. And finally, that all the traditional building technologies in the country, you know, every few kilometers you have another kind of language, a food and a way of doing things. And imagine if overnight everything is replaced by McDonald's food, you know. It would be as shocking, right, if we would imagine everyone has to only eat McDonald's. But in the building industry, it's the same. We everywhere, everybody is using cement and steel to construct everything, whether it's a park bench or anything that even doesn't require the strength. You know, in the children's playground also things are made of concrete. So this kind of standardization that I think industrial development has created, habitual standardization, everything has to be exactly equal according to the machine. If I need paper, they'll only ask me, it can be only A4 or A3. It's impossible to have anything else now. And we accept it like it is, because we are accepting that the machine and the standardization is not possible to question. But for me, I prefer to question that, because I think there is a problem with this kind of extreme standardization. So this were the kind of background context of imbalances that I responded with my own work. And so the first project I did in Auroville was when I was 23 years old. I was very fortunate, some French guy offered me a project to construct his house as well as some extra facilities around it. And I had tried to explore. I moved from Bombay to this rural area where an international township was planned. So I mean, I was thinking that whatever I do can be a prototype for something else, because we don't know how the future, we only know that today's practices are not relevant to the future, or they are not good. So there's no reason to continue, but we don't exactly know the alternative. So I always felt maybe my young age made me that I was more naive, and I was not so afraid of, I didn't realize many dangers also of this kind of thing. So I was very much just going and, trying to find out on the way, And one of the first things I did was to develop this kind of system, to try to build with the potters in that area who used to make cooking pots actually. There were a lot of potters communities because the clay was good for them, and they were making things which nobody is going to buy in the future, and already they have a problem to sell. So I thought that instead of urbanization losing their livelihood, maybe we have to use exactly these skills. It started in a very simple way, that maybe if they can contribute to buildings, then they can, at least for the next 2 generations, till their children know something else to do. But I was not doing something to patronize crafts and all, like I am often labeled like that. I was doing it because I thought I get a better roof. My roof is better if it is climatically comfortable, and so on. It doesn't need steel. So, here I just want to, this picture shows me in that first project where I was not afraid by what I didn't know, like you can see that I was very naive to, but somehow I was never intimidated by that. And now today I tell the same to all my students, that if you only do what you know, because you think you will know the way to do it and one day you will apply, it will never happen, because if you don't start doing it, you will never know it. It's enough if you are curious about something. The curiosity will take you there because someone or the other knows, and you start to do your part. So don't let what you don't know interfere with what you know. So you do what you know, and then you find out, more. So through this kind of very direct investigation, with the masons, by the way, this is one mason who, thanks to no security rules in India, he cannot walk properly. One of his legs is not working, So I just want to say, I'm happy if they would have some rules and some basic regulations in my context, and there are many. So, but anyway, so with the help of other people, and for me, with the aim of not using any structural steel to make a roof, by using the knowledge of geometry and engineering, to not only to save materials, but to not only you choose good materials, but to use very little material, use very little by the knowledge. So using knowledge as a way to progress, and not to just say, okay, this is a new dogma, to say, okay, this material and not this, But if you really know more and more, you can keep on updating your technologies. But I realize that if I work in the full scale with them, with the people, the crafts people, then they can help me, because if I just use the architectural language, then many people are isolated automatically. So I start to explain all of them, and then they used to say, no, this won't work. And then later we used to have engineers. In the beginning we didn't have even engineers, because a lot of engineers would tell us, don't want to do the work. And I thought it's because I'm new and I'm young. Later I realized it's because they don't know how to do it. Today I think that's the case, because they know how to calculate concrete, but they forgot how to calculate masonry structures. So they are afraid, but they are making me think that I am doing something stupid. They don't know about their topic, So, but my masons, for example, if the engineers later, when we had them, after we did a few, engineers were ready to take the work, because they also felt, proud to be part of the project. But even then I used to see some of the masons were telling, no, this won't work. They were telling the engineer, no, this is too much steel. No, impossible. We don't need this. They are so confident in their experiential knowledge. So knowledge is not only outside the university, inside the university. Outside also there is other forms of knowledge, and we have to be open to bring this. So that first house resulted in this, and here, for example, there were many more experiments. There were climatically insulated cavity walls. There is ferrocement fins, which I will talk later about this material. I'm still researching. It's something inspired by Nervi and all this efficient, structurally efficient concrete. But so this was the first project that I did. But in the meantime, in order to afford my own house and to afford my own life, the only option I had was to live in, to take the risk, to have a profession, to want to be an architect, and whatever other risk I took in my life, to live alone. In the Indian context, 25 years ago, it was not very typical at all what I was doing. But the house I could afford was like many people were living like that. It's just round wood, not timber, but the whole wood, if you cut a young tree, you can get the same section in 3 years. If you cut it as a rectangle, you need it to be 25 years. So it was that kind of logic. But the thing is that there was an Australian architect who had promoted a lot of houses, Johnny he's called. He had done some work with this vernacular round wood structures, and he had created quite interesting typologies, and it was very good. A lot of people were living in this kind of houses, with thatch roofs of coconut leaves. And when I built this house, I thought it will last for 2 or 3 years. And for me at that age, it was a long time, 2 or 3 years. But in the end, I was living there for 10 years and the house was still there. I had not even treated the wood because I thought it's a temporary solution. It was not a wood which is very good for building. But these were the personal experiments that also taught me a lot of things apart from the university. The university definitely taught me the main things. Without that, I would not be able to analyze later what I'm doing. But life also taught me a lot of things. So I had this house, this motorbike, solar panel, and I could afford only 2 or 3 lamps because it was very expensive at that time, that type of lamps. So I would take it with a long cable and take it to the different rooms wherever I went. So it was a way to just live. It was not so much out of any kind of religious, ecological thing. It was a spontaneous simplicity that was a life that I did not find to be a burden. It was not a big burden to just earn the money for my life. It was not enough reason to work for only that. So I want to do it very simple and have the time to work as an architect. So this was that house. And later a lot of projects came to me for ecotourism and other places where you want to remove everything from the place. There's no impact. There is no cement in the way the stone is put. It's just put in the earth. And that's why you can use stone, because it can move a little bit with the wind or so. It's not going to crack because it's not cemented in the ground. The rope and everything allows the structure to move a little bit. Later when I'm teaching like this is a picture of Hook Park, which is in the outskirts of London and belongs to the School of Architecture AA. I was teaching there many years later in I think 2006. And I revisited, through my academic teaching, I revisited some of the experiences I had because I tried to introduce more and more realistic experiences inside the university. Somebody spoke about it in the morning session, that in the school you hardly get to do real things. And I think that it's very important. When I'm a teacher and I'm teaching since the last few years now, I have a strategy that 4 realities must inform the design at the student level. And these 4 things are true materials, true scale, real people, and real place. And if you have not experienced, if you don't experience this directly and it doesn't inform your designing, the design must be affected by your direct contact to these 4 things. If you don't do it, you keep designing for 5 years in a certain way, then you go and later go for an internship and you think you can learn about the reality. But you are already ingrained in a way of working that the experience doesn't come back into the design. So I'm very concerned about that. So in this case, for example, my students in London, they had to do a thesis project in the Hook Park, and for them it was important to know more about round wood. So I thought that we did a 10-day workshop. They had to make, I gave them a toolbox, for example, in 1 to 50 scale of all the materials that were available. And only 2 days they had 1 day to make the design for an ecological watchtower in the botanical garden, environmental watchtower to be up for children and they look out as far. So they have to go as tall as they can, and this is the materials we have. And we had only 1 day to design it. The next day the jury will composed of people who are going to build it and everybody from the place. But it was a constructive jury. They got comments and they could have 1 more day's work to fix the design, and then we choose one and all work on it and build it in the next 8 days. So in 10 days, you have this result. So in the beginning, all the people tell you, no, it's not possible, because the schools tell you in the full scale, oh my God, it's very expensive, it will take very long. But whenever you do a model, through your engagement, it actually doesn't take very long time, because first the students said, we can't do it. I said, don't worry, do how much you can. And if you're in a place, you don't have your WhatsApp and you don't have your computers, and you see 1 hour passes and then 2 and you feel it was a whole day. Really, it is without the distraction. A day is a lot of time, and a life is a long time if we are not like robotically, mechanical. So it was fantastic. There was nobody who didn't have a project built in a model. And they defended the projects, and then they got feedback, and finally we won. We built the winning entry, which is this girl who's sitting on the scaffolding, with the craftsman's help. So they can have the experience to design, build and supervise a project, come back, and then you have this knowledge and you continue in your design studio. So I started to do this kind of plug-in projects. I don't like so much to make them go to a place and build mud walls for a whole semester, because I don't want them to become a mason or to be, I just feel that I'm not doing it to help society or something like this. I do it to help as a teacher, for them to become a good architect by facing realities and using this knowledge into the design, and to integrate the real life with the theory. This is my method of teaching. And they built that, so they are very proud. Of course, they couldn't imagine that 1 week later they go back with that experience. And then, so in my projects, one of the important things I want to say here in this image is that many times a design innovation is not really visible. It's for me, it is about a negotiation between how much high tech and how much low tech I should go. For instance, in the previous roof, there was a lot of wood. There were many bars of wood to tie the coconut leaves. In this case, if you look very closely, there is some wire grid on which the wire is enough to tie the sheet. So you don't need so much wood. So it's a little high tech introduced but it's invisible. And in any case, I like design which is invisible. You know, I don't like the design on your face, kind of, like in everything, you know. So I think the good design is like good food. When you cook a good meal, nobody says anything. But if I put in a little bit of salt, they all say, oh, there's too much salt, mummy. So, you know, then I know that the other days was good, you know. So I think in the design also it's like that. If nobody's complaining, they don't notice. I like that kind of design. I don't like to make like a show-off thing. You know, so sometimes you don't see, and I also don't believe in innovation for its own sake. If it is not useful to improve anything, I don't mind using the same system that was developed, but there are so many real problems that innovation is needed in some real good areas, and not as a frivolous design occupation, you know. It's real problems are there which need to be addressed and solved. And so yes, so in this house, for instance, you know, I realized that since we were making most of the things out of natural materials, there was very little materials that we need to bring. So the ceramic tiles and to finish the bathrooms, and a few of those were the only material coming from the industry. And by this time I tried to not only think of the budget, but if I have the same budget, I tried to think how much of the budget goes to the people in the labor and how much goes to the materials. And I try to spend more and more of the percentage of the money on the people. So whenever I have two choices of the same cost, I choose the one that the people will directly benefit. This is for me a healthy economy, to benefit the place and the people directly instead of some faraway industry, you know. So I started, many of this is old knowledge, but we started developing and researching a lot of floor finishes and pigments to put in the cement floors. In this case, the floors are also colored with the earth. In fact, in this house, you don't see in this picture, but this is all rammed earth walls, and the earth is also used for coloring the floors. And the wood is from the place and so on. And then finally, after about 10 years, I moved towards my later house, which was a brick house. By this time, I mean, I want to mention here, we just had a conversation, I don't know where, about the rating systems, you know, of green rating systems that we have. So, you know, a lot of times people are talking about bricks being high energy consumer. You know, and we are not promoting bricks. But on the other hand, not every earth is possible to be used uncooked. Some earth has too much clay, and that has to be used by cooking. And we have monsoons, and you know, it's not, I realized, I got a kind of revelation when I found out that the ancient Indian bricks, which like the ancient Venetian bricks, they are very poor quality. Actually, they are very not uniform, very weak, and all our life we are chasing the good factory bricks. And I realized in the LEED rating system, they always give you one value for all the bricks, and that is a real nonsense for me. Frankly, today I say that because for me it's important. What is the fuel that made it? What is the clay? If the clay is from the place, you know, and the brick is cooked with coconut shells or leaves, of course it is a better solution than a factory brick which has double the strength, because it's better you make double the thickness of the wall from that brick. And that's why, to show that, because I just felt I discovered it, I did the walls exposed in my house to show that, you know what, I think the bad brick is the good brick. That was my thing. You know, I was experiencing and I was very happy with this personal discovery. So I also made the house with lime mortar instead of cement, because I started realizing that there is a whole social aspect. You know, people who are producing the bricks or the lime, there's a whole society community whose life is related to the farming and the clay, and you cannot displace it overnight and suggest a new technology without thinking of the social sustainability. Earlier I was only thinking of environmental sustainability, little by little. Now of course it is an accepted knowledge that social and economic sustainability is the definition of sustainability together. At that time I was just learning about this by gradually knowing more about the place. So for me, this house, which I'm showing you here, is actually a kind of a result of that kind of thinking, and it was an effort to promote the ancient brick tradition, which was still continuing in some small pockets. Nobody wants this brick because it's weak, and I was saying, it's okay, I'm going to build the walls thicker according to the brick of the place, and even if it's not rated differently, I know it is more sustainable, and if I make the walls thicker, that's also even more better for the performance of the wall and the thermal mass and everything. So maybe I realized that what we have to stop is to over-design. When you don't have the real knowledge, you just guess and you want to be safe. So a lot of engineers are putting a lot of extra materials just because they are not precisely sure how much should we use. So I nowadays make 2 or 3 designs and I calculate how much, which design, which shape, which building uses how many cubic meter of the concrete. For me that is more important, to also think of the overall picture, not just which one material, So this building had many different roofing techniques, 6 or 7 because I used my house actually to test the solution for different projects which were bigger, to test it in my house so that not to give the risk to the client, because also my team of craftsmen, they have to also take a risk and they are afraid to get it wrong in a client's place, so I used to let them do it in my place. So my house was growing very slowly. What I want to explain about this is that I also started designing sometimes multiple windows, because one solution doesn't work for all the climates throughout the year, but we always have one window, and then we are either uncomfortable in summer or winter or monsoon. But for our clothes we have jackets and all that, so why not have for the windows also? Because I'm not sure, a lot of passive houses want to seal the whole building, but I can't feel good about it in my common sense, that how can it be healthy if I have no contact to the direct air outside? I don't know. I want to open the window. I mean, I don't want to be full time in the house, I want to be, but I want to open the window and be part of the whole world. So for me, I prefer to have different solutions, like the jackets. If I want to get wet, I can take out my raincoat if it's warm, and I can regulate, be more free. So I started to work like that with layers, and the same way how you dress up and personal comfort, you see the material, if you feel good or no, is important. So I extend that as the next layer of the dress, the architecture is, so in a way you are inside, the inside is when you go inside your house, but actually that same material you built, it has its outside, so it will impact the outside and it will affect the other people and it will affect the person inside. So this we have to balance. Where is the line between the inside and the outside, and how do we have the balance of individual health and collective health? The both are together. It's a life system. It's like a sea which is moving the shore. It's not we are breathing, the air is going in and out. It's not complete for me. That's why I don't like the very closed system. So that's why maybe my bathroom is like this on the first floor. I lived too many years in that kind of life which you saw before, in a very free life. So for me, I like to keep the contact wherever possible to the outside. In the shower, if I get wet, it's no problem because it's for having a bath. If it rains, I don't need a roof. So then there was this ceiling which is also made with pots. It is a system to save concrete, to save steel by 40% or so. And normally what happens is when you design efficient slabs like diagrid and waffle slabs in concrete, we have usually the shape of the form work is so expensive that people don't do it. So they just use more steel and flatten everything. So in this case, the the slab can be thick, but you can create, this terracotta acts as a kind of a lost formwork, shuttering. So these kind of things, made with earth, etc. Because this again, these are projects in a small scale. I am resolving something for a big ceiling. For example, here, this was a community hall. There are always the humble challenge of the individual house, and then there are the public buildings for which we need to have solution for large scale, large span, tall buildings, and we have to address the two sides. So for me, that's why the negotiation, the balance of between high tech and low tech is very important. Do I want to give the jobs to the machines or to the people? In each case, I have to think new. Because here when I say innovation, everybody thinks about robots, and I have to say that because maybe the buildings are becoming intelligent. They are saying smart city, intelligent building, intelligent machine. But the people are becoming robotic. That is more worrying for me, that it's okay for the robot to be robotic, but not the people, So this is something to also keep alive, in our reflexes. So this was a community hall for a low-cost housing project, in which this is the kind of housing I was doing, very humble. They are very cheap. They are like 3,000 euros at that time. Well, I don't know the real price now, but really, really low-cost projects for very, very basic needs, but still having the similar standard of space and clarity like in a high-budget house. Not to have different materials according to the budget, so that the city has not to have a clear different urban form between the rich and the poor. That is the most disturbing for me. So some of the techniques that we were using are large rammed earth walls. Sometimes they are reinforced with a little bit, stabilized with a little bit of 5% of cement if it is in a very monsoon area, and so on. But I started creating typology of larger scale housing. This was that project, the housing project called Urban Eco-Community Model, where it was one of the important projects of upscaling to a larger group of people. And that is a project where I told you I had the bad experience of no problem. I will do how much is in the time, So, so based on this experience, we managed to integrate urban infrastructure, all the toilet water and everything recycled completely, integrate solar and electricity hybrids and so on, and the earth used from the wastewater treatment plants, for example. So these are all the people who participated, and this is the kind of roofing system. Even though it is handmade, it's a very speedy construction system that is cost competitive, and with cement used wherever it can, and streets on upper levels to create community dialogue. So this is one of the more radical experiments where I mean the whole house, this was called building with fire, where the fire itself is a cement. The whole house is built with earth. There's a Californian potter who developed this technique, Ray Meeker. It's his work, this one. My PhD was about it. So he builds large mud houses. He puts pots inside and cooks the whole house so that the heat generated inside cooks the walls also. Because normally the kiln typically absorbs 40% of the heat for no reason. So I built some houses with this technique. This one you can see online, I suppose, because there's not much time to explain. But I did my PhD on this, and I built some houses in this technique. And this was for an orphan, homeless children. So, and there was really no budget. So we just took any urban wastes and we, used that to construct the house. There are a lot of students in all of these projects because they let you, we are sharing all this knowledge with them, even areas which we are still investigating. So the house cooks for 3 or 4 days, and when the house is ready, you take all the pieces out. So basically there is no, hardly any purchased material, mostly labor. So it's all the work of the people. Then you take out the bricks, and I finish the bathrooms and some areas with glass, bottles and glasses, because sometimes those things are cheaper than the material catalog, to buy any household products. So actually I was going to show you something more, but there is no time. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't mind, I'll just click through it without a commentary and let them see the images, okay? And then you can look at everything in the website. I'll just mention, this is the recreation of it in the Venice Biennale. This is the space, original space. And this shows how many hands are involved in even the construction of one house. How many people are making how many materials, all from the earth, lots of people work in one house. And to show how these things are cooked, how these communities make lime, and how one should think twice before displacing all these systems. And these were taken for testing to Australia, almost handmade by students from Venice and Australia. 3 containers of material coming from India. It's a huge collaborative effort. Let me just show you the end result. This is made with wine bottles. And the end result is the old and the new can coexist. And that we are all the same, whether it's in Venice or in anywhere. We are more common than we are different. I'm just not showing any commentary, you can look at it. This is a project handcrafted with stone. It was a luxury project. So for me, luxury is time. This I have to show you because it is in Raval. It was called the Library of Lost Books. Some of you may have seen it. This is sofas made out of books, which they would have otherwise burnt. This is the Hamon vacuum packing machine packing open books for knowledge. And this is, the place, Filmoteca. To make a place for reading, to be in the shade of knowledge, even if the people don't want to read anymore. And the last project, I'm going to skip this, ferrocement. For the most affordable habitat, I'm now referring to origami crease patterns to make the thin material of concrete very, very thin and strong through folding pattern, making the form work with paper, carry it like that, and make a house like that, for example. And, wait, I'm skipping this. The same material, it's a house with like a Lego dry house. You just can put all this together and you don't need furniture. This is all modular. This is the kitchen block. Tried on children first. And with this I end. This is a last project I recently did in Mexico. This wall is made out of Tetra Pak. It's called liquid wall. We filled everything liquid or sand inside and give strength, use the container. Because I want to end with a comment that our society is producing also so much ugliness that we have to take it upon ourselves also to transform that. Because more than good things, we are creating bad things. So let us recycle the ugliness into some beauty. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's normal. I'm also sorry.
Lo siento mucho porque...
No.
Quins? Els receptors de la... Ah, vale, ho diré. Gràcies, sí. No, perdoneu, me sabe muy mal tenerte que interrumpir porque
don't feel...
yo creo que ha sido una conferencia súper